Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Jane Costello, who's here to share with us her new novel, It's Getting Hot in Here. So what if the hottest mess of your life turns out to be exactly what you needed? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Jane Costello is a best-selling British novelist whose romantic comedies have sold over 1 million copies in the UK. Her novel, You, Me, Everything, published under the pseudonym Catherine Isaac, has been translated into 26 languages, and she lives in Liverpool, England. So welcome to the show, Jane Costello.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Well, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. It's getting such great reviews. What even inspired you to write this?
Oh my goodness. Well, I had been writing romantic comedy for years in the UK and was well known here, but less so in America. And done it for about a decade. I first wrote my first book when I was on maternity leave. Written rom-coms for about a decade, and then I'd sort of grown out of writing them because all my protagonists were sort of in their 20s. And as I got older, I thought, gosh, I'm not sure I can accurately reflect what life is like for somebody in their mid-20s anymore. So I wrote a different type of book. I wrote emotional love stories then under the name Catherine Isaac. But I got to my late 40s and, sometimes you just want to read a rom-com, don't you? Something really funny and smart and entertaining and something that's going to uplift you. And when I was sort of looking around, I couldn't find any really, or certainly not many, with protagonists who were my age, who were writing about what it's like to be a woman in midlife. And I thought, right, I've got all these books under my belt. I'm the person who needs to write this. So that's how It's Getting Hot in Here. The idea came to me, and it's a rom-com with a midlife, with a main character who's in her 40s. She's a mum of two. She's been twice divorced. She's called Lisa Darling. And she's a TV exec, and she's got, she's got what we all have at this time of life, this enormous to-do list. She's got loads going on. She's juggling everything. And we first meet her at the start of the book where she's helping and supporting her best friend through breast cancer treatment. And her friend, she also works with her. Her stand-in at work sweeps in from the Los Angeles office this guy called Zach, and they clash immediately because Lisa is convinced that he wants her best friend's job for good. And of course, sparks fly, and we all know what happens when sparks fly in a rom-com. There's lots of chemistry, and it all culminates in this ill-advised evening, shall we say, and that's kind of the springboard for the rest of the story.
Well, I think that's a good place to stop. It is such a great read. And, I really love the cover too. I mean, how many women can relate to having the fan and holding it in front of you because, we're in midlife, it's either motherhood or going through menopause. I mean, how intense is that?
Well, exactly. And to be honest, I felt like of all I've written 15 novels, this I can honestly say was the one I enjoyed the most. Genuinely, because there was just so much material. I'm 51 now, but I started writing this when I was in my late 40s, approaching 50. And I've got a sort of friendship group very similar to Lisa's in the story. And, we're all going through the same thing at the same time. There was just so much to go at in terms of, HRT, school PTAs. In her case, she's been divorced. She's dealing with ex-husbands. She's juggling the lot. So, yeah, there was a lot of material to write about. And obviously, perimenopause and menopause is very much sort of, come to the fore in recent years in ways that it really, just weren't the case even 5 years ago. So it's great that we're talking about it now, and it was just brilliant to be able to write about it.
So the main character, Lisa, is such a dynamic and layered character. My goodness. I mean, you've done such a great job just crafting her. How did she first come to you?
Gosh, I can honestly say of all the characters I've ever written, she was probably one of the most fully formed because I just think she's not based on one individual woman or person that I know. She's based on sort of everyone I come into contact of our age, um, who are at this time of life. And everybody I know seems to be juggling, especially if they've got kids and are, have got a job as well. And we've got all the pressures of schools and PTAs and that kind of thing. Yeah, she was just based on my observations of, everything that women at this age have on their plate, which is a lot.
Oh, we don't wanna talk about the to-do list, I think every woman has a to-do list that never ends.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that to-do list because I've got one myself and it just, there's items on there that must have been there since about 2019. Everything gets prioritized and there's this like
Oh,
top layer, they're the creme de la creme and you'll kind of whiz through those, but you just never get to the bottom of it. So yeah, I did have a lot and it has some of the most inane things on there that you've got to do. You've got to do at some point, but gosh, you can put it off for a long time if you if you've got enough other items on it.
there's something always being added to the top of the list, I understand
Isn't there
that.
just? Isn't there just?
Well, and humor plays such a huge role in this book. How did you balance this just, fun comedy with the deeper, more kind of emotional threads within the book?
Well, I think in real life, you know, sadness and happiness rub alongside each other, don't they? I've written books in the past that have dealt with some very, very pretty heavy themes, to be honest with you. I've written one book I wrote as Catherine Isaac, called You, Me, Everything, had a storyline about somebody who had Huntington's disease in their family. I did a lot of research for that. And, one of the things that really struck me when I met people going through something like that was, they still don't lose the family, the families involved in that, they can still laugh. It's unbelievable, that the strength of the human spirit and the potential of the human spirit. And so, yeah, I just think in real life, we have times of our lives when you experience real joy and other times that are really, really tough. And it doesn't change who you sort of fundamentally are. So with this book, it's very much a comedy. I wanted it to be, the kind of book that is really going to leave you feel thoroughly uplifted, hopefully make you smile and sometimes laugh. But at the same time, I just thought, this is a book about women in their 40s. And I don't know many people who've got to this age without at least knowing somebody that something really tough has happened to them. And that's the case in It's Getting Hot in Here. Lisa's best friend, Rose, is undergoing, we meet her at the start when she's undergoing treatment for breast cancer. And yeah, I felt like if everything was purely happy and easy and all the rest of it in this novel, it would be too far removed from real life for me, I think.
Well, readers are really loving this book, and I've heard it's been called relatable and real. Why do you think they're resonating so well with this book?
Oh, I think it's a good, well, I don't know. I think I did go out of my way to kind of make it reflect what I saw around me in terms of the women my age, I would say. So I think it's partly that, I've told it as it is. There's one particular storyline. She has a very difficult teenage son. And anyone who's raised teenagers will know that they can go from being just wonderful 1 minute, so much fun, to absolutely horrendous the next. And I think we all, most of us will experience something of that to a greater or lesser extent. And there's elements of that storyline in particular. I think I do sort of, I don't know, I push it quite far, I would say. But it's just real, I suppose. And I think her desperation at times in that, in dealing with that, really sort of comes across. And I think that was one particular thing people found relatable. But I think mainly, to be honest with you, it's because there aren't that many books out there that reflect this age group, women of this age group, in this particular way. So I think that's the thing that's kind of fresh, and that's the thing people are really enjoying reading about.
Oh, yes. There's not a whole lot that really dives into life as it is. And I can understand why this book has been kind of celebrated as this messy, marvelous midlife. And, and I think it's so relatable. People are like, they can see themselves in this story.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's partly relatable, I would say, but it's also got just the right amount of it's full of I mean, most of us are not having this amazing romantic, love affair with this gorgeous, guy at work, So all that is very much escapism, I would say. So it's got just the right amount of reality, I would say, but also a perfect amount of escapism as well. And, there's a lot of romance. It's a little bit steamy at times, and it's just hopefully really good fun.
Well, thank goodness for books that have escapism in it,
Yes.
like this, that we're able to dive into and just, really kind of, in many ways, just be immersed in it and get
Yeah,
away
I
from
think,
what's happening.
yeah, you're so right. I mean, like I say, I did, I've written books in the past that have dealt with some very sort of heavy themes. Um, And I just think there's never been a better time, really. This is the time we want to be reading something that's really going to kind of take us away from any of the woes of the world and, put a smile on our faces. And, I always, when I was I was a huge reader growing up, and I just loved books that you could really, um, like you say, escape into. And I loved books that made me laugh. Gosh, that I just felt like that was a magic, when an author managed to make me do that. So that was always the type of book I wanted to write. And yeah, it's we live in a fairly challenging world at the moment. And yeah, it's good to be able to really switch off from that, I would say.
Well, that's putting it kindly. And I think having It's Getting Hot in Here is a perfect read for right now. Where can our listeners connect with you, Jane, and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
Well, I've got a very I write a newsletter every month. So if people go onto my website, which is janecostello.com, if they wanted to sign up for my newsletter, I've got lots of free content on there, like short stories and things like that people can access immediately. I'm on Instagram is probably the social media I sort of like the best, but Instagram and Facebook as well. They're really the main places.
Well, Jane, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. It's been so lovely to meet you.
Well, thank you, Jane. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your hot new novel, It's Getting Hot in Here. It's Getting Hot in Here is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember, support our indie bookstores. If you don't see it on the shelf, Just ask for them to order it. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.